What if I told you that your blood sugar problem isn't what you eat during the day? It's what happens while you're asleep. For millions of diabetics, nighttime is when blood sugar quietly goes out of control. Insulin sensitivity drops, stress hormones rise, and your liver starts releasing stored glucose into your bloodstream between 2 and 5 in the morning, even if you ate perfectly all day. That's why so many people wake up frustrated, confused, and exhausted by high fasting numbers that refuse to improve. Most advice tells diabetics to either stop eating at night or snack on light foods. But going to bed hungry can trigger stress hormones, and eating the wrong nighttime foods can cause rebound sugar release before morning. Either way, your fasting blood sugar and your HbA1c keep climbing, not because you're failing, but because no one explained how nighttime metabolism really works. In this video, you'll discover 3 specific dry fruits that work with your nighttime hormones, helping calm liver glucose release, reduce overnight stress signals, and naturally lower morning blood sugar. You'll learn exactly how much to eat, when to eat them, and why timing at night changes everything. If your morning numbers are stubborn, this could be the missing strategy. First on the list, dried cranberries. Before understanding why dried cranberries can work for diabetics at night, it's critical to understand why nighttime blood sugar behaves so differently from daytime blood sugar. During the night, insulin sensitivity naturally declines as the body shifts into a resting, repair-focused state. At the same time, stress hormones, especially cortisol, begin to rise in the early morning hours, typically between 2 and 5 a.m. This hormonal shift signals the liver to release stored glucose into the bloodstream to prepare the body for waking. In people with insulin resistance, this signal becomes exaggerated, causing the liver to release more glucose than needed, which is why fasting blood sugar is often high even after a perfectly controlled dinner. This overnight liver-driven glucose release, not daytime eating, is the real target of nighttime nutrition strategies. Dried cranberries are one of the most misunderstood dry fruits in diabetes nutrition, largely because they are judged only by their sugar content. Many people assume that because cranberries are dried, they must automatically spike blood sugar and worsen control. This belief comes from a common myth. All dried fruits are bad for diabetics. The truth is far more precise. For diabetics, timing, portion size, and form matter more than the food category itself. When used correctly, unsweetened dried cranberries do not worsen nighttime glucose control. They help calm the biological signals that push blood sugar higher while you sleep. At night, glucose regulation is driven less by carbohydrate grams and more by hormonal signaling, liver stress, and inflammation. Cortisol, oxidative stress, and endothelial dysfunction all signal the liver to increase glucose output. Unsweetened dried cranberries are uniquely positioned to counter these triggers because they are rich in bioactive polyphenols, not just sugars. These compounds work quietly, reducing stress signals rather than stimulating insulin aggressively. The most important rule must be stated clearly. Only unsweetened dried cranberries are appropriate. Sweetened or juice-infused cranberries behave like candy and will raise blood sugar. Unsweetened cranberries are naturally tart, lower in sugar per volume, and concentrated in protective compounds that influence metabolism beyond glycemic impact. From a glycemic standpoint, dried cranberries have a moderate glycemic index, but glycemic index alone is not the deciding factor at night. What truly matters is glycemic load combined with hormonal response. When eaten in a small, controlled portion, the glycemic load of unsweetened dried cranberries remains modest, while their metabolic benefits remain active. This is where most people go wrong. Portion size determines outcome. The correct nighttime portion is 1 to 2 tablespoons, measured intentionally. This amount delivers polyphenols and organic acids that calm liver signaling without overwhelming the bloodstream with glucose. Larger portions behave very differently and can raise blood sugar, which is why dried cranberries demand precision rather than casual eating. This precision has long-term implications for HbA1c, which reflects average blood sugar exposure over approximately 90 days. Many diabetics focus only on post-meal spikes, but fasting glucose contributes disproportionately to HbA1c because it represents many hours of daily exposure. Even mild overnight glucose elevation, repeated night after night, silently pushes HbA1c upward. When dried cranberries are used consistently at night for 8 to 12 weeks, the repeated reduction in overnight liver glucose release can contribute to HbA1c improvements of approximately zero point 0.3 to zero point 0.5 points, particularly in people whose primary issue is elevated morning sugar. One of the most powerful and overlooked mechanisms behind this effect involves oxidative stress in endothelial function, a deeper clinical marker rarely discussed in diabetes content. Oxidative stress damages the lining of blood vessels and worsens insulin resistance. It also sends danger signals to the liver, encouraging excess glucose release. Dried cranberries are rich in proanthocyanidins, potent antioxidants that reduce oxidative stress and improve endothelial health. Healthier blood vessels improve glucose delivery to muscle cells, lowering insulin demand and reducing liver glucose output overnight. This vascular calming effect becomes especially important at night when circulation naturally slows and insulin resistance increases. By improving endothelial signaling, dried cranberries help stabilize glucose handling during sleep rather than forcing insulin-driven control. Another important mechanism involves the gut-liver axis. The gut sends constant feedback signals to the liver, especially during digestion and rest. When the gut is inflamed or stressed, it signals the liver to increase glucose production. Cranberry polyphenols help reduce gut inflammation and oxidative stress, leading to calmer signaling between the gut and liver. This reduces unnecessary glucose dumping during the early morning hours. There is also a strong psychological and neurological component. Many diabetics experience late-night sweet cravings. Even when these cravings are resisted, they activate stress pathways that increase cortisol and worsen glucose control. A small, intentional portion of dried cranberries satisfies the brain's desire for sweetness without triggering a full insulin response. This reduces psychological stress, which in turn lowers cortisol-driven glucose release overnight. Timing plays a crucial role. Dried cranberries should be eaten 45 to 60 minutes before bedtime, not immediately before lying down. This allows digestion to begin and prevents glucose fluctuations during the deepest sleep stages, when hormonal sensitivity is highest. Eating them too late can increase blood sugar variability and disrupt sleep quality. Dried cranberries should be eaten alone at night. Mixing them with nuts, yogurt, milk, or grains changes digestion speed and increases glycemic impact. The goal is simplicity and predictability. A few sips of water or unsweetened herbal tea are sufficient. Within the first 7 to 10 nights, many people notice fewer late-night cravings, calmer digestion, and more predictable morning glucose readings. Over several weeks, fasting blood sugar becomes less volatile. Over a few months, HbA1c reflects the cumulative effect of quieter nights and reduced liver stress. It's important to be clear and honest. Dried cranberries are not forgiving of excess. Eating more than 2 tablespoons at night can raise blood sugar and undo the benefits. This food works because it is precise, not because it is unlimited. Dried cranberries do not lower blood sugar by force. They work by removing the triggers that push glucose upward overnight. Oxidative stress, endothelial dysfunction, liver inflammation, cortisol activation, gut stress, and psychological cravings. This is why such a small amount can make a meaningful difference. When used correctly, unsweetened dried cranberries are not a food to fear at night. They become a nighttime metabolic stabilizer, helping the body transition into sleep without triggering the hormonal chaos that leads to high fasting blood sugar in the morning. Second on the list, raisins. Raisins are one of the most misunderstood dry fruits in diabetes nutrition, especially when it comes to eating them at night. Many diabetics see raisins as nothing more than concentrated sugar, and on the surface, that fear makes sense. But that assumption ignores something critical. Blood sugar control at night is driven more by hormones and liver behavior than by sugar content alone. When used correctly in the right portion and timing, raisins can actually help calm nighttime glucose instability rather than worsen it. To understand why raisins can work at night, you have to understand what happens during sleep. As the body transitions into nighttime rest, insulin sensitivity naturally declines. At the same time, stress hormones, especially cortisol, begin rising in the early morning hours, often between 2 and 5 a.m. This hormonal shift signals the liver to release stored glucose into the bloodstream. In people with insulin resistance, the liver releases too much glucose, leading to high fasting blood sugar even after a controlled dinner. Raisins, when used strategically, help reduce the stress-driven liver glucose dump that causes this problem. From a glycemic perspective, raisins do have a moderate glycemic index, but this number alone is misleading. What matters at night is glycemic load, not just glycemic index. When raisins are eaten in a very small controlled portion, their glycemic load remains manageable and does not spike blood sugar. This is the key difference between using raisins intelligently and using them carelessly. The correct nighttime portion of raisins is 1 tablespoon, roughly 10 to 12 raisins. This amount provides a gentle carbohydrate signal without overwhelming the system. Larger portions behave very differently and should be avoided at night. Precision turns raisins from a problem food into a strategic one. One of the most common nighttime mistakes diabetics make is either eating something sweet in an uncontrolled way or skipping food entirely. Late-night biscuits, fruit bowls, or milk-based snacks raise insulin late at night and are often followed by rebound glucose release. Skipping food can activate cortisol, pushing glucose into the bloodstream during early morning hours. Raisins, used correctly, avoid both extremes. They provide just enough glucose to prevent stress hormone activation without triggering insulin spikes. This has important implications for HbA1c, which reflects average blood sugar exposure over approximately 90 days. Fasting glucose contributes disproportionately to HbA1c, often more than post-meal spikes. When raisins help reduce repeated overnight glucose surges, even slightly, the cumulative effect over 8 to 12 weeks can contribute to HbA1c reductions of around 0.3 to 0.5 points, particularly in people whose main struggle is high morning sugar. One of the most important benefits of raisins at night is their effect on liver glycogen regulation. Raisins provide a small amount of natural glucose that reassures the liver there is no immediate energy shortage. This reduces the liver's need to aggressively release stored glucose during the early morning hours. In simple terms, raisins help tell the liver to stay calm overnight. Raisins also contain polyphenols, which reduce oxidative stress. Oxidative stress worsens insulin resistance and signals the liver to increase glucose output. By reducing this stress overnight, raisins indirectly improve insulin sensitivity and glucose stability by morning. Another overlooked benefit of raisins is their potassium content. Potassium supports nerve signaling, muscle relaxation, and fluid balance. At night, electrolyte imbalance can trigger stress responses that raise glucose levels. Many diabetics experience nighttime restlessness, leg discomfort, or shallow sleep, all of which worsen insulin resistance. Raisins help support electrolyte balance in a gentle way. Raisins also contain small amounts of iron, which supports oxygen delivery to tissues. Adequate oxygenation reduces nighttime stress signals that can elevate glucose. This benefit is subtle but meaningful, especially for people who feel fatigued despite adequate sleep. Cravings are another critical factor. Many diabetics struggle with late-night sugar cravings. Even when resisted, cravings activate stress hormones that worsen glucose control. A small, intentional portion of raisins can satisfy the brain's desire for sweetness, reducing psychological stress and preventing late-night binge cycles. Timing matters. Raisins should be eaten 45 to 60 minutes before bedtime, not right before lying down. This allows digestion to begin and prevents glucose fluctuations during deep sleep phases. Eating raisins too late increases the chance of blood sugar variability. Raisins should be eaten alone at night. Pairing them with nuts, milk, yogurt, or grains changes digestion speed and increases glycemic impact. The goal is simplicity and control. A few sips of water or unsweetened herbal tea is enough. Within the first 1 to 2 weeks, many people notice fewer nighttime cravings and more stable morning energy. Over several weeks, fasting blood sugar readings become more predictable. Over a few months, HbA1c reflects the cumulative benefit of calmer nights and reduced liver stress. One important thing to understand is that raisins are not forgiving. The difference between benefit and harm is portion size. Eating more than 1 tablespoon at night can raise blood sugar and work against sleep quality. Raisins reward discipline and punish excess. Raisins do not lower blood sugar by force. They work by reducing the stress signals that cause the liver to release excess glucose overnight. Cortisol activation, oxidative stress, electrolyte imbalance, and psychological cravings. This is why such a small amount can have a meaningful effect. Used correctly, raisins are not a sugar food at night. They become a nighttime metabolic signal, helping the body transition into sleep without triggering the hormonal chaos that leads to high fasting blood sugar in the morning. Third on the list, figs. Figs, also known as anjir, have been used for centuries as a nighttime digestive and metabolic food, yet they are rarely explained correctly in modern diabetes advice. Many diabetics avoid figs entirely because they are naturally sweet, while others eat them freely without understanding timing or portion. The truth sits in between. When used strategically at night, dried figs can support gut health, insulin sensitivity, and overnight glucose stability, making them surprisingly effective for lowering fasting blood sugar over time. To understand why figs work best at night, it's important to understand the role of the gut-liver axis during sleep. At night, digestion slows, insulin sensitivity drops, and the gut becomes a major signaling center that communicates with the liver. If the gut is inflamed or stressed, the liver receives signals to release more glucose into the bloodstream. This is one of the most overlooked reasons diabetics wake up with high fasting sugar. Figs work by calming this gut-liver communication pathway. From a glycemic perspective, dried figs have a moderate glycemic index. But like raisins, the number alone does not tell the full story. What matters at night is portion size and fiber structure. Dried figs are rich in soluble fiber, which slows sugar absorption and reduces glucose volatility when eaten in a small, controlled amount. The correct nighttime portion of dried figs is 1 small fig or half of a large fig. This amount provides fiber and bioactive compounds without overwhelming the system with sugar. Larger portions behave very differently and can raise blood sugar, which is why figs demand precision. One of the most common nighttime mistakes diabetics make is focusing only on sugar grams instead of digestive behavior. Eating foods that irritate the gut at night, heavy meals, processed snacks, or nothing at all, can increase gut inflammation and stress hormone signaling. This leads to cortisol release and increased liver glucose output between 2 and 5 a.m. Dried figs, when portioned correctly, help calm digestion rather than stimulate it. This has important implications for HbA1c, which reflects average blood sugar exposure over roughly 90 days. Fasting glucose plays a major role in HbA1c because it represents many hours of daily exposure. By reducing gut-driven liver glucose release at night, figs help stabilize morning blood sugar. Over 8 to 12 weeks, this pattern can contribute to HbA1c reductions of approximately 0.3 to 0.5 points, especially in people whose fasting sugar remains high despite good daytime control. One of the strongest benefits of dried figs comes from their soluble fiber, which feeds beneficial gut bacteria. These bacteria produce short-chain fatty acids that help suppress excessive liver glucose production and improve insulin sensitivity. A healthier gut environment overnight leads to fewer glucose spikes before morning. Figs also support bowel regularity, which may sound unrelated to blood sugar, but is deeply connected. Constipation and slow gut transit increase inflammation and insulin resistance. Many diabetics struggle with nighttime bloating or irregular digestion, which worsens glucose control. Dried figs gently support regularity, reducing gut stress signals that raise blood sugar. Another important nutrient in figs is potassium, which supports muscle relaxation, nerve signaling, and fluid balance. At night, electrolyte imbalance can activate stress responses that raise glucose levels. Potassium helps counteract this, supporting calmer sleep and better insulin sensitivity. Figs also contain calcium and magnesium, both of which support nerve relaxation and metabolic stability. Magnesium, in particular, plays a role in insulin receptor activity and muscle glucose uptake. Providing these minerals at night supports better glucose handling the next morning. Unlike raisins, figs also have a mild prebiotic effect, meaning they selectively feed beneficial gut bacteria without overstimulating fermentation when portioned correctly. This helps reduce overnight gut inflammation, which is a silent driver of insulin resistance. Cravings are another area where figs help indirectly. Some diabetics experience late-night cravings not because they need sugar, but because the gut is irritated or digestion feels incomplete. A small portion of dried fig provides a sense of digestive closure, reducing mental and physical restlessness before sleep. Timing matters greatly. Dried figs should be eaten 60 minutes before bedtime, not immediately before lying down. This allows digestion to begin and prevents blood sugar fluctuations during the deepest sleep phases. Eating figs too late can cause mild fermentation and discomfort, which may disrupt sleep and glucose control. Dried figs should be eaten alone at night, not combined with nuts, milk, yogurt, or grains. Mixing foods changes digestion speed and increases glycemic impact. The goal is simplicity and predictability. A small amount of water or unsweetened herbal tea is sufficient. Within the first 1 to 2 weeks, many people notice improved digestion, reduced nighttime bloating, and steadier morning energy. Over several weeks, fasting glucose readings become more consistent. Over a few months, HbA1c reflects the cumulative benefit of calmer nights and improved insulin sensitivity. One important thing to understand is that dried figs are not forgiving of excess. Eating more than one fig at night can raise blood sugar and disrupt digestion. Figs reward precision and consistency, not quantity. Dried figs do not lower blood sugar by force. They work by calming the gut-liver axis, reducing inflammation, supporting mineral balance, and improving insulin sensitivity during sleep. This is a quieter mechanism than raisins or cranberries, but it is just as powerful over time. Used correctly, dried figs are not a sweet food to fear at night. They become a digestive and metabolic stabilizer, helping the body transition into sleep without triggering the hormonal chaos that leads to high fasting blood sugar in the morning. If you've been eating carefully all day but still waking up to high fasting blood sugar, remember this: you're not failing. Your body is simply reacting to what happens at night when insulin sensitivity drops and the liver quietly releases glucose. Tonight, you learned how to work with that biology instead of fighting it. If this video helped you, tap the like button, share it with someone managing diabetes, and subscribe to Diabetes Healthcare for clear, science-backed strategies that actually work.